As you guys know, what I do here at Elevated Standards is I help with the workflows, right? I help to find out, where the gaps are in your business, and I help to streamline some processes for you and all those things, right? But when you go to assess the workflows, it's hard to go somewhere and not see the gaps that are there. And I went and got some food from this lady. Not the desserts, but I went and got some food, and it was just not on point. I had to wait. They forgot that I had existed, which was not a pleasant experience for me. But the food, when they gave me a sample of the greens, and I had tasted the greens, and it was good, but it was also hot. So they had went and they was like, okay, well, we're sorry that, you got lost in the sauce kind of situation. We're going to make your food right now. For the amount of money that I spent for this platter, I expected more than what I actually got. I expected the food to be warm. The warm had gotten cold. The food had gotten cold. And even though they had the warmers underneath of it, I felt like it was really a second thought once I started eating it. So initially, when we were going through the process of me getting the food or whatever, I was like, whatever, it happens sometimes. But when the product wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be because it was cold, it then tainted my experience with that food place, right? I had got some rice, some greens, and some wingdings, but they didn't advertise it as wingdings. They just said chicken. And I was like, okay, but it was wingdings. Okay, if I knew that, I wouldn't have had paid as much as I did for this platter. But they did accommodate as far as, letting me get a juice. They were apologetic. I wanted to pay in one form. They didn't really accept the form. At least the person up front didn't believe that they did. But the manager, the owner, she was like, oh no, we accept that. I got this. And she took care of me, whatever. So that was okay. We had a couple of things with payment. Not just with that place, but also with the place I got the soursop leaves from, and the sea moss mango drink. They only accepted the digital payments or cash. So I had a card, and I wanted to pay with my card, but they was like, no, you could pay with Zelle or Cash App or this, that, and all these things, right? And that just didn't work for me. But we finally figured out something that I did have on my device, and I could pay that way, because they were going through all this other stuff, and they was like, if you want to pay through card, then you gotta go through our website to make the payment. But I'm here with you live, right? I did have cash, but by the time I had got over to that particular spot, I didn't have enough cash for what I was buying, so I had my card. So I had various ways of paying, but just be mindful of when you have different generations purchasing your product or your service, have multiple ways for them to pay. So like with me, I have multiple ways of you to pay, but it's not going to meet everybody's needs. And if it doesn't meet everybody's needs, then you're not going to get that money. I work with business owners. Business owners have the one or other way of making payments for things. In my case, however, when you're out with the public, you do want to make sure that you're able to accept, multiple ways of payment, and not all just digital, and or not all just cash. So you want to give like that mix going for them, because when you're dealing with especially different generations. Now, if you're dealing with maybe not my parents' age, but maybe my grandparents' age, they want to pay, with checks. And so that's almost I will say, obsolete way of making a payment with anybody, especially when you're dealing with vendors. They typically wouldn't accept that anyway. So that would not be something I would say, hey, go ahead and do. I will say continue to use the digital ways of payment. But not all apps. So have some apps, have some card, have some cash. I think having a mixture of those three really work. If you are not a cash-based business, then have the card and an app. This way, you're catering to everyone. So if you have the apps, you're going to typically get the younger generations. If you deal with the cards, you're going to deal with your, I guess middle age group. If you deal with cash, you're dealing with everybody, right? But particularly the seniors. So be mindful of that when going forward with forms of payment. Okay, I'm off that soapbox.